Today we're talking about the GlobalEye. Pretty cool. We're going to be reacting to a video by Belle of the Ranch called Let's Talk About Canada and Sweden Beating the US Out of Billions. We're going to be listening to what she has to say, and also we're going to be taking a look at some of the specs and how they compare to the Boeing planes. Oh, and also we're going to be looking at some comments. People are pretty hilarious and pretty on point. All right, let's take a look. Today we're not just comparing two aircraft. We're looking at a decision that defines how a country fights and who it fights with. Because when you evaluate airborne early warning systems through a NATO lens, the question changes. It's no longer what's the best aircraft. It becomes what system fits the alliance. Let's start with the reality. NATO doesn't operate as a collection of independent militaries. It operates as a network. A shared system of sensors, data links, command structures, and decision making. And that system has very specific requirements. Interoperability, persistent coverage, and most importantly, airborne command and control. So now, let's look at the two contenders. On one side, the Saab GlobalEye, and on the other, the Boeing E-7? E-3? The Boeing E-7 Wedgetail. The first major difference is interoperability. The E-7 is designed from the ground up to plug directly into NATO operations. It connects seamlessly into the alliance's air command structure. It speaks the same language, it uses the same data links, and most importantly, it's already being adopted by key NATO players, such as the United States and the United Kingdom. Which means whether officially or not, it's becoming the standard. GlobalEye, on the other hand, is compatible, but it's not foundational. It can plug into NATO systems, but it doesn't define how NATO operates. And that distinction is important. Because in a coalition fight, the system that defines the network defines the battle. Now let's talk about command and control. This is where the gap becomes very clear. The E-7 is not just a radar platform, it's a flying command center. It carries a large crew, operators managing airspace, coordinating multiple aircraft, directing intercepts, managing complex multinational operations in real time. GlobalEye takes a different approach. It's more automated, more streamlined, more efficient, but it's not designed to manage large-scale air wars. It's designed to observe and inform, not command. And NATO needs command. Next is persistent coverage. NATO's mission is not occasional surveillance. It's continuous presence, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, across massive geographic areas. The E-7 is built for that. Larger aircraft, larger crews, long-duration missions with sustained operational intensity. GlobalEye has excellent endurance, but with a smaller crew and a lighter operational footprint. It's not optimized for sustained high-tempo alliance operations. Now, let's look at radar coverage. The E-7 provides continuous 360-degree awareness at all times. No repositioning required. GlobalEye uses a highly advanced radar, but it relies more on aircraft orientation to optimize coverage. In a national context, that works. In a NATO air policing mission, where multiple threats can emerge from multiple directions, continuous coverage becomes critical. So again, the advantage goes to the E-7. But this is where things get interesting, because GlobalEye fights back in a completely different domain. Multi-domain awareness. GlobalEye is not just looking at the air, it's monitoring the sea, tracking vessels, observing ground movement, building a layered picture of the battle space. The E-7 is focused primarily on air warfare, because that's NATO's core mission. So here's the trade-off. The E-7 dominates in alliance warfare. GlobalEye excels in national sovereignty. And that leads us to the real conclusion. If your priority is NATO integration, there's a clear answer. The E-7 Wedgetail. It aligns with the alliance, it integrates seamlessly, and it delivers the command and control capability NATO requires. There's a joke, NATO stands for Need America to Operate. Funny, but not. But if your priority is sovereign awareness, Arctic surveillance, maritime monitoring, then GlobalEye becomes extremely attractive. And here's the part we don't always talk about. It's not really a binary decision. The most capable posture is not choosing one over the other. It's understanding their roles. The E-7 is the alliance brain. GoldenEye is the national sensor. And when you combine them, you don't just see the battle space, you control it. So the real question for NATO isn't which aircraft should we buy, it's this. Are we building a NATO-first force or a sovereignty-first force? Because that decision doesn't just shape procurement, it defines strategy. So now let's take a look at what Belle of the Ranch has to say.
Well, howdy there, Internet people, it's Belle again. So today, we're going to talk about Canada and Sweden beating the US out of billions. First, we need a little bit of backstory and an explanation. In modern militaries, the Airborne Warning and Control System, or AWACS, is the backbone of air power. It's normally a large plane that looks like a cargo plane with a dish on top. They can track incoming aircraft, and the planes avoid many of the limitations of ground-based radar. They're important.
They're important is kind of an understatement. They're the eyes in the sky. They're the early warning.
They're important, and it's not a purchasing decision taken lightly. For more than 40 years, one company dominated the field, Boeing. And that legacy was set to continue. As recently as 2023, Boeing was set to be the manufacturer of NATO's next generation of AWACS.
What happened to Boeing? Actually, that'd be a really good episode because we pretty much know what happened to Boeing. It's pretty awful. They went from I had so much respect for Boeing when it was an engineering firm. Look at their successes. Seriously, the Boeing 707, amazing airplane, and it just took over the world. Politics had something to do with it, but engineering did too. I mean, a barrel roll. Okay, it was a 1G barrel roll, but still, Boeing was the leader. Boeing had so much respect. What happened to you, Boeing?
Boeing's E-7 Wedgetail was a sure thing. But that was under Biden. That was before Trump caused a massive rift in the NATO alliance.
Trump caused a rift? Did he? What did he say?
Donald Trump is making it crystal clear. He is not joking about Canada becoming the 51st state.
Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like. And it would also be much better for national security.
While admitting he has no right to do it, he said he'd use economic force to merge the countries, voicing his frustrations over U.S. defense spending and how much it costs to help protect Canada, while also making exaggerated complaints about the trade deficit.
But why are we supporting a country $200 billion plus a year?
If I'm not mistaken, the trade deficit is, I think it's $60 billion a year. But that doesn't consider how many Canadians there are or how many Americans there are. The average Canadian buys $8,000 worth of American goods per year. The average American buys $1,200 worth of goods per year. Deficit.
Boeing's E-7 Wedgetail was a sure thing. But that was under Biden. That was before Trump caused a massive rift in the NATO alliance. That was before he indicated he might attack NATO allies. Then, the U.S. decided to cut Boeing's Wedgetail from the spending plan in June of 2025. That was probably the last straw. It didn't help that the CEO of Saab was out there basically saying, "Y'all rushed to purchase this thing. Have you heard about our GlobalEye? It's kind of awesome."
You can't blame Saab for taking advantage of this situation. I mean, I think it's professional persistence. Selling the products that you have. It's okay. Good for them.
Countries started scrapping their purchase plans for Boeing's plane. The Dutch defense minister made no secret that it was because of Trump's rhetoric and a new desire to invest in European defense industries. That's something that didn't matter as much when the U.S. was a reliable ally. At time of recording, it hasn't been publicly announced, but multiple outlets have confirmed that NATO's Support and Procurement Agency has made the selection. The GlobalEye is going to be the new platform. It's basically Saab's radar and electronics thrown into a Bombardier Global. So, it's Swedish tech in a Canadian plane. Even setting aside the geopolitical implications of the U.S. losing out as the provider, we're not talking about a small chunk of change the U.S. lost out on because of Trump's rhetoric and trade policies. We're talking about more than $600 million per unit. Trump cost the U.S. billions. Just the first run looks to be close to $6 billion, and that's just for the planes.
I know she's talking about defense here, but the decline in tourism has just been brutal as well. Not to mention the loss of faith, the loss of trust. You know, we used to put all of our eggs into the American basket. Everything that we built in terms of, supply chains been built in hand with the United States. Our pipelines go through the US, our pipelines. I mean, we have a pipeline that goes from east to west in our country that drops down through the US and comes back up through, is it Ontario, Quebec? I'm not sure. Our electricity flows south. We never thought that this situation would be used as leverage against us, though. I think that's where our weakness really is.
That doesn't include all of the additional money for sustainment, training, and everything else. This is going to be a huge boost to both Canadian and European defense contractors. It's taking the rhetoric about building out the defense industries there and making it concrete. Defense contractors there now know, not think, know, they can get the big contracts. You don't need the advanced sensors on an AWACS to see there's going to be more of this incoming. I'm sure this won't bother Trump at all right before Canada and the U.S. start talking about trade deals again. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.
If you like this video, please like and subscribe, share to help grow the channel. Also, let me know in the comments what you think. I know the E-7 is not going to be a popular choice with Canadians, but the GlobalEye certainly is. Thanks for spending time with me. This has been Canadian Shields. I'm your host, Pierre Shields. Go play outside.